Good morning. It is Moon Day, the 17th day of July. I'm Lou, and we're going to dive into a bigger picture of the astro weather now this week. So thank you for being here. Regardless of any prior experience or current relationship, I think anyone and everyone can get something from leaning into energies, teachings, leadership, guidance through our human experience. So thank you for being here. It's a lot to unpack, so this isn't like totally comprehensive, but this is going to be a longer video. Feel free to do whatever you want to do. If you want to have a cup of tea, you want to listen, take notes. And before we get started, I would love any sort of feedback, like, yeah, dude, like this is helpful, or I would like to hear different things from you. When I hop on for astro weather things, it's typically, I feel that it's important, and I know that that's not just my experience. This particular week of mid-July has been on many people's radar, and might be like one of the more significant opportunities for us. So I want to spend time doing it. But I also, we're a lot of things, and one of the things I think we are is transmitter and receiver. Yes, I'm a scientist. Yes, I'm saying this. And I think when I am feeling it is very important and a strong urge to share some things, some learnings, it is kind of coming from, I'm kind of a vessel, just like I'm like a bridge from plants to people. I think this is also one of them circumstances, which doesn't make, I'm not special. I think I know that we all have this capability and gift, and we use it in all sorts of different ways. And if we don't necessarily experience it, it's okay. I'm sure it shows up in all sorts of different ways. We're talking intuition. I think this is also very much a direct result of my choices, lifestyle, things that really don't feel like choices, being immersed in the nature realms, cosmic and earthly, because they're the same. So I'm not a master. I'm just I'm a helpful guide. Take what works, leave the rest. Again, my goal is to share some perspective as a place for you to explore. And this isn't like a recipe or formula, and this certainly isn't the only perspective. And I appreciate that you appreciate my perspective. Okay, so why are we talking about this? So the sun and the moon new in Cancer. So new moons pull in stillness. It's the start of a new cycle. The sun is in Cancer, but the sun is going to move into Leo. We'll get to that in a minute. So the sun and the moon are in Cancer, and they're across from Capricorn, right? Because Cancer and Capricorn are these two anchor points along a spectrum that is a lot about emotional safety, physical safety, the emotional and energetic experience of home, belonging, family, lineage, ancestry. Cancer ruled by the moon, movement, water. Capricorn, more tangible, earth sign, ruled by Saturn, structure, limits, very much the physical aspects. It could literally be the physical structure of your home, a physical place of home, and the resources that both resources that meet at this place of this big spectrum of safety, resource safety. When you take these 2 points and you connect them, and then you draw up to the next point, this is actually really cool. This is called a yod, the finger of God, points to Venus, who is in Leo. Mercury is in Leo. The sun will soon join into Leo. The midheaven and ascendant are all in Leo. Venus is about to station retrograde in Leo. So we have a finger of, okay, this feels hella significant, friends. Okay. Where's everybody else? Just to have kind of a big picture. And of course, you can look this up in the current natal chart or the current transit chart, and you can see all these different aspects too. But so we have Mars in Virgo, we have Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, we have Chiron in Aries, oh, and the midheaven in Aries, forgive me, the midheaven is not in Leo, the ascendant is in Leo, midheaven is in Aries. We have Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus, which I've also talked about this year. We have the North Node moving today, the North Node moving from Taurus to Aries. We have the South Node moving from Scorpio to Libra. This is our eclipse axis. It's an 18-month cycle. We are at simultaneous endings and beginnings. More on that in a minute. South Node moving from Scorpio to Libra. These are the lunar nodal axis. That's what I mean by nodes. It's very karmic. It's the path of fate. We all have these placements that vary, right, according to when we were born and where we were born. And but we all also collectively experience the nodal shifts in these the eclipse axis. So we have Libra ruled by Venus. We have Aries ruled by Mars. We have Pluto in Capricorn. Pluto has been in Capricorn since 2008. And then Pluto moved into Aquarius just for a quick bit, has retrograded, has moved back into Capricorn, and then will move back into Aquarius early 2024 until 2043. Pluto transits are a big deal. They're very generational. When we talk about Pluto, we are connecting with great transformation. Different from like the Uranus shock sometimes. Pluto is a long haul game, and it is long and it is deep. It connects us to the underworld. It unearths. Not to fuck with you, but because for lots of different reasons, right? For our work as individuals and as community and as collective, we can't do much with what continues to be suppressed, repressed, unconscious, subconscious. As things come up, we enter into relationship with them and experience transformation. Pluto also connects us with Scorpio. Lots of karmic stuff. By karmic, I mean like long haul, this lifetime, many lifetimes, natural consequences, cause and effect. It's not really tit for tat. That's like a thing we've kind of invented. But we do know that with cosmic law and physics, right, there's cause and there's effect. And Pluto, I think, in its own special way, right, is interested in disruption and unearthing so that we can achieve our fuller potential. I do believe that that's what all of the plants and the planets are greatly interested in and co-conspiring for our greatness through. So, all of this is significant. I can't help but think, especially with Pluto and the Cancer Capricorn connection right now, and the eclipse nodes moving, I wanted to mention that the eclipse axis was in Cancer and Capricorn 2018 and hit the apex like January of 2020. There was a solar eclipse at 0 degrees Cancer in June of 2020, and I know because I was born with when the sun was at 0 degrees Cancer. So I had and that was a time. So we had the Cancer Capricorn eclipse axis kind of culminating in January of 2020. I mention this because Saturn, I thought I just heard a hummingbird. Saturn and Jupiter, it was the great conjunction that ushered in a 30-year cycle, big shift concerning systems, foundations, structures centered around power, authority, tradition, commerce. This also coincides with maybe the age of Aquarius. That goes way further, deeper than like in the 1970s in America with like hippie culture and stuff. You can look into the age of Aquarius, which is a 2,000-year cycle. that speaks a lot to electricity, computers, democracy, freedom, humanitarianism, humanity, rebellion, nonconformity, philanthropy, community care, expansion of consciousness. Some of the themes associated with Aquarius, right? Which I think we'll really get into when Pluto stations in that sign. All my Aquarian angel aliens. Okay. It feels like a lot because it is. So let's backtrack a little bit. So new moons, new beginnings. You don't have a beginning without an ending. We have both Pluto and Venus about to retrograde. And remember, retrogrades are an illusion from our vantage point on Earth, but energetically, they offer an opportunity to, it's like when you leave your house, right? And like you gotta go back. Like, I forgot my sunglasses. I forgot my herbal infusion. I forgot something. There's something I missed. So we review, reassess, usually leads to renegotiate. It's because of the type of energy flow, right? It's more internal. It is reflective. Pretty much every word, reread. And that could be frustrating, I'm sure, to revisit, but usually, right, it's because we're gonna find or revisit something or see something that we are holding, but maybe in a new light, or, you know, because we're reviewing things that we've kind of been working on or experiencing, right? Hindsight. We have all these amazing points of reference, basically. The planets guide us through these movements and aspects and meeting up and conjoining and opposing and coming, you know, like synergy, and then bring in, it's a dance, right? We're like spiraling in and spiraling out, flying through space. Wow. So retrogrades are really important. And I think when you have Pluto and you have Venus in Leo and Pluto in Capricorn, the most clear, obvious, tangible, linear theme, either or and together, values. What do we value? Why do we value it? And how? This is really where the Libra, Aries, and Mars in Virgo, Mars ruling Aries, and with Chiron in Aries, also connects us to the actions, our will, and our desire to live out our values. Now, this is a great thing. Of course, we want to live in our values. And then there's the reality, as Saturn and Pluto, and everybody really like to help us remember, help teach us about, help inform us as we do our Earth school things, right? As people who are interested in learning, in expanding our minds, in incorporating our heart and heart-centered experiences in with the rest of our life, right? We can't just live in the mind. We can't just live in the heart. We can't just live in the gut. We're an integrated ecosystem. We don't want to just plant one plant everywhere across the entire Turtle Island. We want diversity. Diversity gives strength. It gives stability. It gives scope. We want the diversity of ourselves to be present. We want to have that relationship of being with our mind, being with our heart, being with our instinct, and a lot of Uranus and Taurus, right? And of course with Jupiter there too, expanding on this question. If you have Luz Longview or Venus Physica, or have watched prior videos, you'll hear me often offer guiding questions. So one of the guiding questions with Uranus and Taurus is, for me, how do I know the difference between instinct and impulse? And of course, this is a relevant question with what are my values and how do I actionate them? What is the authentic integration of our values, so the things that we think are important and important enough for us to take action on. So if it's important for us, I'll connect this to everything else. If it's important for us that all humans experience safety, if it's important for us that governing bodies are not legislating our bodies, if it's important to us that that food is nutritious, safe, abundant, able to be grown and exchanged with folks through climate chaos, right? We have choices to make every single day. And ones that we might have to make in an immediate sense of urgency response, right? And also in long haul, able to be sustained ways. I'm very clear that I am like not here to stoke fear or give a sense of urgency, as in, if you don't do 1, 2, 3 right now, then very soon terrible XYZ is going to happen. That is not the role of plants or planets in my life. I think that there is plenty to be scared of, very, very real existential threats to all of us. And of course, we know we and our friends and our family and our neighbors, there are some folks who are in grave danger because of structures and systems, right? And this is where we have both Saturn in Pisces, Uranus in Taurus, whatever Pluto is doing whenever. I mean, I hate to leave Neptune out of things, but I don't have a good handle on Neptune because it has no shape or form. But all of these, right? All of these planets as elders, as entities, as personalities, as archetypes, that also, you know, there's parts of them in us, in the plants. They rule plants. They are connected with colors, directions, elements, myths. I mean, these are our other homies. This is like our other family tree, right? And they're doing their thing not to cause us harm. This is just kind of how it goes. And I continue to view it as ongoing invitation to enter into relationship, to deepen and expand the relationship with these ideas, with these energies, with archetypes, with our own experiences as a human being, can be greatly informative. It is not the only thing, and it's not at odds with anything else, with religion or faith or science. They're all interconnected. They all intersect. That all being said, I experienced a tremendous amount of existential anxiety, grief, rage, especially connected with climate chaos and climate collapse. And I'm sure if you're here, you know of which I speak. We don't want plants and animals to die because of the choices and decisions that very, very small volume of people with great reach and power do. It's fucking really destructive, and it's disgusting, and we can feel really helpless and hopeless, and we can acknowledge that. And I'm here to remind you that you are not helpless. Yes, we are all victims of these things, for sure. There's a great amount of harm happening. And also, I think one of the beautiful things of being in relationship with more than human kin, and with people and community and grassroots and interdependence, is that we experience directly a sense of safety, a sense of hope, a sense of belonging, all this very Cancerian. But when we take action, when we align our values and actions, right, to adapt with climate crisis while also trying to hold the system accountable for the harm and destruction, when we are patrons of local nurseries, when we assist with seed saving, seed sovereignty, when we center and appropriately compensate for the teachings and methodology of repair for the earth, and how to repair our food system locally, regionally, and then connecting all of our networks, right? We are answering the call. We are saying, I will not despair. or I might despair, but I'm going to do this anyway, because if I don't, I'm complicit. If I'm complacent, I'm complicit. And this is not to say that you have to save the world, but whenever we increase our agency and our autonomy, and we make choices from our values and our will and our desire for a safer world, for more life, then we're also saying no, and we are then experiencing the greatness, the radness of doing stuff with other people that addresses very real harm. And it may not solve all the problems all at once. I don't think that's a possibility, and it's a process. And that's why we want to take the time, especially when the moon is dark, and especially when there's retro times, right? To review, to reassess. It is very important to rest and replenish and rejuvenate, often through relationship with the very people that are supporting our efforts, and we're supporting their efforts to reduce harm and reduce the risk of harm from all sorts of stuff, right? So simultaneous rebellion, care as currency, is possible, and the plants and planets help structure those things for us, I think. When a lot of things are pointing in the same direction, right, and we also are experiencing it for ourselves personally, you know, I don't really think there's an argument against like thousands of years of relationship with plants and planets as real nourishment for mind, body, and soul. So I hope that my chats help facilitate that. So, like, where are we? So, I mean, like, right now, oh my gosh, that's a huge slug. I got it. I thought I just heard another hummingbird. So where we are right now is I feel like we're really in a portal of reflection. I think it's terribly important to remember beginning and endings go together, and they might not come together at the exact same moment, right? It's often a process that kind of transcends our concepts of linear time. I want to speak a little bit about the Cancer-Capricorn axis a bit more. So we are in a Cancer year, which I think is important to remember. And again, the Cancer-Capricorn axis, I guess I did talk about, but home is a big thing for Cancer, and this is symbolized, you know, by the glyph of the crab that carries their home on their back, but so do snails, and so do turtles, and you know, what is it about Cancer besides some of these I think, like, what a lot of us think about, like, people talk about how Cancer is so moody. Well, and that's kind of like, and it's like, yeah, moody is hard. I think that characteristic is so prevalent and used to describe the Cancerian energy and archetype, because really, let's look at Cancer a little bit deeper. So Cancer is ruled by the moon, deeply feminine. Cancer, deep, or the ocean, right? Ocean waters, tides moving. So we have 3 water signs. We have Pisces, we have Scorpio, and we have Cancer, and they're all a little different, right? Pisces is like the ocean of the cosmos. Scorpio is the still, deep, dark waters. And where's Cancer? Cancer, the crab is at that movement point, right? The kind of a liminal space of tide movement, of the, you know, waters coming in, waters receding. And I think with that movement, right, things come up, we wash away. I think Cancerian archetype is acutely aware of the suffering of the world. Is that where they, you know, and that leads us to the sensitivity and nurturance and compassion and a lot of the things that bring us comfort, self-soothing, self-parenting. Cancer connects us to Mother Ocean. It also connects us to Grandmother Moon. It connects us to our family ancestry, lineage, the things we carry. So you could really, just focus on Cancer stuff, and it's still going to inform and ripple out into all of these things. My suggestion is not that you have to do everything with all these bits of energy and all, but I think having the awareness of it, especially Cancer new moon today, moon day. So we have, the 3-day window. The moon has been in Cancer since I think Friday or Saturday. And it sets the tone for this lunar cycle, right? So the next month, which is a lot of Venus's time retrograding in Leo, and high summer, and also Leo season, which I think is actually really cool to kind of experience both at the same time, of like the deep emotional waters and a bright light of pride in the self, happy about who I am. I think that fire is a wonderful companion with the salty tears and the big sad. And remember, the big sad is not a character flaw, and there's nothing wrong with that. It is a great superpower and gift, and I think Cancer is kind of a little underrated, just like I think Gemini is a bit misunderstood. These are very complex, multidimensional energies and archetypes. So if you're called for that, and then we have Capricorn, the complementary sign of Capricorn and the sea goat, and the ability to stand in water, be sure-footed in water and earth, and to climb great heights and still be informed by the emotional experience. So then I'll come into, I have so many reflections on this that I won't necessarily share right now, because this is a lot of information, but summer is a time for nervines, man. And I think especially with a lot of, again, culmination, a lot of shift, a lot of the ends of cycles and beginnings of cycles that, of course, in 18 months, when we look back on the eclipse cycle through Aries and Libra, right? But we want to go into with some kind of intention, some kind of awareness of what may be possible for us to learn, to heal, to experience, to share, to advocate for, to protect, to, whatever we want to do with these gifts, right? And we'll see it, especially with Aries and Libra. You're going to see this show up in your personal life. We're talking about the self and more than self. We'll come back to that in a minute. So the season for nervines. So nervines is a way to describe plants that have primary action on the nervous system. All plants have benefit for us. All plants appreciate us being in relationship with them. That is beyond just taking them or using them to feel better or whatever. They are our friends, they are our guides, they are our teachers, and connecting with them and centering relationship is a beautiful way to interact with our world. There are plants that help us relax and ease tension, which is not the same as sedation or hypnotics. There are plants that help replenish, tone, strengthen. Replenish doesn't necessarily mean stimulate. There are stimulatory nervines. Of course, I'm sticking with my primary plant teachers and things that I can offer directly. Milky oat tops and oat straw, cereal for the nervous system, especially for daily use over the long haul. I'm thinking lavender and that sweetness and relaxation. If you have the forehead kiss, you know what we're talking about. Any way that you want to work with lavender. Chamomile. We'll come back to chamomile. Blue vervain. Are just things that come to mind. And of course, mugwort. So we typically don't think to hang out with mugwort at a new moon, but mugwort ruled by the moon, Cancer ruled by the moon. I think it's a beautiful cycle to hang out with mugwort in any way, kind of consistently through the lunar cycle, especially culminating in a full moon in Aquarius. Interesting. Very cool. So, yeah, mugwort, which you can massage with, you can just hang out with, you can burn it, you can smoke it, you can drink it. Gentle nervine, emmenagogue. Look in to see if you should be using it while you're pregnant. Other plants that come to mind, of course, that connect us. So these are like nervines when they have different rulership. And of course, I'm thinking about Damiana and rose. And of course, and also hawthorn. Any of the Venusian plants, anything that is strengthening, toning, beautiful for our heart. We have this gorgeous motherwort. I also, of course, will always recommend calendula, right? So not just for external wounds and moisturizing and healing of the skin, it also does the same thing on our inside. So when we're working with plants that maybe are astringent or cooling or drying, we also like to balance it out with something warming or moisturizing, emollient or demulcent, depending on our needs and our constitution and how we're hanging out with the plants. So I think of, yeah, calendula, and of course like marshmallow root comes to mind for sure. Other plant homies. I also think that because of the culmination and the beginnings and endings and reflections, I read today, you're not the you are what you eat, but really you are what you absorb. So any plants that are aiding and supporting us in digestion, process, and elimination, and I mean physically and energetically, what comes to mind? Red clover, dandelion root, anything that's like supporting kidneys. I mean, we think of our digestion, we tend to think of our stomach, but we have our stomach, we have our gallbladder, we have our pancreas, we have our intestines, we have our colon, we have kidneys, liver. So we want to support like whole system, right? Chamomile is, it's over there. You can't see in this view, but that's okay. Chamomile is, I know it's often in sleepy time teas. Chamomile will help you sleep if you're already exhausted. I know it's like, you know, when you're exhausted, but like you can't get to sleep because you're exhausted, and your body's like, I'm exhausted because, so maybe I still need to be able to respond, and like, chamomile is very helpful for that. Chamomile is also like super helpful for when we have sharp biting anger, which is not a problem, right? We don't want to suppress, repress, ignore our anger. Our anger lets us know when boundaries have been crossed. Our anger lets us know that we care about something. Anger informs us of our values, Venus, and our desires and our will, Mars, Libra, Aries. When we don't metabolize our anger, we can become bitter. And when we are bitter, we are cynical. And when we are cynical, it's very easy to then also be in places of prolonged depression, disappointment, resentment. These things are hard on our body, hard on our mind, hard on our relationships, and are hard to really show up into the processes of innovation, creation, renegotiating, right? We need our creativity. We need an experience of safety and connection, because all of that really supports us to tap into possibility and also allows for the energy required to implement and to integrate. Burdock root also comes to mind for this. Burdock root is also a great mirror. I recommend all of these things, and of course, I'm sure there are many more, and, you know, working with bioregional and culturally appropriate plant homies that we honor, respect, and steward, and protect and help grow is, you know, whatever calls to you, right? Whatever feels right for you is the right thing to do, right? I also think it's a fantastic summer for flower essences. It's a fantastic time for flower essences. You can work with herbal infusions, oil infusions, flower essence tinctures at the same time. And of course, you know, just be discerning. If you want to bounce ideas off of me or with me, here for that, of course. So I guess to close out, I think, oh, other suggestions, man, like go swimming, go to water, water rituals. Absolutely, if you work with the lunar cycle or any astro weather things ritualistically, where you have an altar, I already lit my candles at my ancestor altar. I'll be spending time with that for sure. Giving a lot of flowers, and especially things that were dried from last year, and giving that to Mother Earth. Any activities that promote a sense of safety, nurturance, belonging, and not just for you. It's also very helpful. Like, I always feel great when I take care of my dogs, or I do something nice for someone, or I'm just kind to someone. Like, I might be having a fucking shit day. Giving care appropriately to those who can receive it, right? Often gives us something, right? The comfort foods, it might feel like low energy. That makes a lot of sense. I trust your judgment on deciding, regardless, absolutely, movement, right? That can be gentle movement, that can be vigorous. I trust your judgment. Play with it, explore. Writing, journaling, for sure, always super helpful. Reflection, right? Looking back, looking forward. If you want to set a goal for the next 30 days, the next 18 months, the next 6 months, whatever you want to do, of course, it's always a great time to do that. And as we hopefully now know a little bit more about, or have a different view on, we know that it's a very super supportive, beautiful, powerful, potent portal time. I wish for everyone to have a lived experience of safety and nurturance and belonging. Sometimes that can be really hard in this world. And I think you're really brave. This is hard stuff. I don't think that, like, I hope I made this clear. Like, I don't feel like there's like a ton of necessarily like clarity or very like clear paths forward. I do think it is a time to have awareness and presence to what's going on in us and around us, without really like attaching. I mean, having a clear view of like, these are my values, these are like the actions I'm okay with, like this, and being willing to explore that, or the nuance, or being open to new experiences and new things that can inform us about the things that we feel really sure about. I also think that there's great potential for, certainly collectively, for looking in, or for, continuing to build the relationships and structures that are life affirming and that care about humans and actionable. And again, I think the big, especially, when I look at these things in Taurus, what actions, habits, relationships are you able to sustain long term? I know, let me also, just one more thing. There's an awful lot of emphasis on relationships, and that is apropos. Yeah, let's talk about Aries and Libra. That was the one thing we didn't really. So you can think of Aries as the self and Libra as more than self. I spoke a little bit about this. It doesn't matter. I'll say it again. So, you know how people are like, kill your ego? I don't really think that's the ask. I think, so our ego is our sense of self. I think it's very, very important to have a active participation with our sense of self. This is super fucking important for anyone and everyone who was ever a child, especially a child who lived and grew up amongst, harm, chaos, violence, war, poverty, abuse, neglect of any kinds, trauma, big T, little t. Our sense of self when we are children and our sense of the world is very, very much informed by the people in our closest proximity, right? Our intimate relationships, our parents, our caregivers, teachers, the people who care for us, because we're children. And as we grow and evolve, right, regardless, we could have had like the best childhood ever, regardless, right, at some point you really start to differentiate and self-actualize, right? Like you, like, yes, okay, and also I can see where I am a separate being, I am a separate entity from these ideas, from the enculturation, from tradition, from my parents, from the rest of the world. I am my own thing. That is important, because when we recognize that we are an independent being, we can access our agency, which means that we can access a fuller scope of choice. And our choices really matter, especially when we've had a great number of lived experiences that decrease our agency, right? Where we don't have access to our own lives, like that, or healthcare, or, you know, extrapolate what you will from that. And that's great. When we talk about ego, we're not really talking about like this necessarily egotistical or ego-centered or incredibly selfish, right? That stuff is, right, the shadow, the really dark side, imbalanced, diseased aspect of a self. When you have a sturdy sense of self, you are able to show up into the world and amongst chaos and change and uncertainty and even pain and harm more capable. When you have a strong, secure sense of self, you're able to show up in relationships in a different way. And that is terribly important, because we know that the rugged individualism, hyper self-responsibility view on things is not helping to repair the world. It's really just another perpetuation, right, of power dynamics. Pluto is an awful lot about power dynamics in our culture, in our world. We know that intimate relationships in our culture involve an awful lot of very odd power dynamics that were invented and that are based in gender and all sorts of things. So, you know, remember, Cancer, Capricorn, Pluto to Venus, right? Care, nurturance, emotional literacy, emotional safety, physical structures of safety and access to resources, to values, right? Right? And then we have the self, and the more than self, we have the axis of how we relate, where I end and you begin, the interdependence that is so absolutely necessary, mandatory, birthright, sacred responsibility for us to respond to this world in ways that reduce harm for all. It means owning our shit. Can't really own your shit and have accountability for yourself if you don't know who you are and you don't have reflections on your behaviors and the motivations for your behaviors. And yes, your wounds, Chiron and Aries, taking on the sacred responsibility and honor to help heal yourself. And of course, this all happens in conjunction in relationship. Our intimate relationships, our relationship with, and then on throughout, you can like picture, right, concentric circles on out. So like most intimate is with yourself, right? And then your other, and that doesn't just have to be romantic partnership. I mean, like my most intimate partnership was with the plants, nature, right? And then Kinga, and then everyone else after that. I think we'll see a lot along the next 18 months in our journeys, and, you know, of course, depending on our life circumstances and on our choices. I think we all experience this sort of ambivalence, and this goes to like attachment theory and all sorts of stuff. Like, we want to be a separate entity, right? We want to be separate. We also want to be interconnected and belong and feel like we're part of a group. And of course, we can then look at all these other like shadow aspects to a lot of these themes, especially with Aquarian energy and Pluto energy. We know that as a lot of people feel like they are losing power, they freak out and they do desperate people, right? Desperate measures. And we see that playing out certainly collectively, grabs for power and like, I will not go. You know, they know that it's crumbling, and we're actively helping to dismantle and crumble because it kills people. That's where our humanitarianism comes in. I don't want to be like proceed with caution, but besides our I would proceed with caution. I think this is a long haul thing. I think being discerning is always really important, right? Especially when we're talking about relation dynamics and renegotiating the kinds of relationships we have. I know I and other people feel a fear when it's like, oh, relationships will end, right? And that, I think that statement is like just triggering for so many people, right? Because like loss of a relationship can be very scary and potentially terrifying. And so I don't want us to like hyper fixate on that, but I do think there is going to be a lot of shift. And of course it's going to be related to values and action and alignment. And so take care of yourself, like soothe yourself, like, you know, when it's okay to be afraid for sure. And we don't want to repress or suppress or ignore any of our emotions. We also don't want to forget that they're information and they're part of a bigger grouping of information from which we can make like really great choices and decisions. And if you don't know what to do, like, then don't do anything. I don't think that right now this is a call for action. I think the action that's called for is awareness and presence and reflection and kind of like washing through, and of course rituals of cleansing for sure. I do just want to speak to also the relationship axis sort of, you know, self and more than self, this Aries, Libra, and connected with homies in Taurus and in Pisces is like climate crisis is a really big deal, and our relationships with food, agriculture, the people who grow our food, how we grow food, how we steward our earth, our land, especially Turtle Island, is terribly, terribly, terribly important. And I'm sure if you're here, you already know that we cannot continue as a collective doing the things that we've been doing. We can't. We can't. This needs to, every single human being, I would love to help facilitate, encourage, support, and however, building, deepening, expanding your relationship with plants, with water, with soil, with pollinators, with best practices. I'm here for those conversations. If we want to have a primer on, you know, like what's the difference between native and invasive, or whatever, when in doubt, go to your local farms and nurseries, start a community garden. I mean, do all those things. It is terribly, terribly, terribly important. And maybe it feels like, you know, putting a Band-Aid on a massive gaping wound, but it's so much more powerful than that. And it is the response asked of all of us. So the more that we normalize and the more that we actively participate, right, without being so affixed, like this is the right thing to do everywhere. I won't get too much into that, but using these transits and these energies to really honestly look at our personal and communal relationship with land use is, well, terribly important. It is an existential threat. So I hope that you are not scared by that, but also motivated to take this adventure, however you want to take it, ongoing, and we will hopefully continue to reduce harm and the risk of harm for ourselves and others as guided by plants and planets. If you please feel free to share anything at all, either publicly or, you know, private. Please, any and all feedback. Do you enjoy these things? Is this helpful for you? Would you like to hear more? Do you want to hear something different? Please help me meet your needs, my very small, wonderful community. And of course, you know, these are labors of love and study and specialized skills. So if you appreciate the stuff, you can always Venmo me at Mayraki_pharmacy. Even $2 is nice, man. That's also one way that I know that what I'm offering is wanted, needed, appreciated, and is also landing, you know that there are great barriers for through social media. So your word of mouth, and yes, liking, commenting, saving, sharing. Please share. Please tell your people. Please invite them over. Whatever. Please help me continue to do what I do. All right. I really, it's a fun time, and I trust you. I believe in you. I'm excited about you, and I'm grateful for you. Thank you for spending time with me, and maybe we'll check in at the full moon. Let me know if you would like that. And I'd love to hear from folks who are using the Long View Guide or the Venus Physica Guide. If you would like to share anything with me, that'd be great. All right, I'm Lou, and I'm gonna go right over here with these guys. All right, much love to you. See you soon.